Welcome to the Create the Life You Want podcast, where we break down the journey of people just like you going from dream to ownership in business acquisitions, franchises, and startups. I'm your host, Jeremy Ames. Today's episode is brought to you ad-free by Guidant Financial. Guidant is America's leading company helping aspiring entrepreneurs use retirement funds to buy or start businesses. If you're committed to buying or starting a business, you can find out more about your funding options by going to www.guidantfinancial.com. That's Guidant financial.com. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Create the Life You Want podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Ames, and today I am joined by Rob Metis. And I'm excited to dig a little bit into Rob's story because this is the first time that we've had someone who has built a vacation rental business in a specific location, and we're going to find out a little bit about the little ski town that Rob lives in. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, one of the first questions I love to ask of people is, did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or at what point did this thought occur to you?
Yeah, I knew that eventually there was something that we wanted to do, my wife and I, that was a little bit different than just 9 to 5 every day, or, when you get to some of these roles, it's kind of 24/7.
Yeah. And what were you doing in the corporate world?
I was everything. My last gig, I was the chief financial officer for a metal roofing and siding company.
Okay.
Before that, I was director of procurement, logistics, and planning for a security company. So where we produce the inks that you would see on a $20 bill, that little black circle. And so in the chemical industry for a very long time, finding obscure chemicals and making lasers and cool stuff, but it was a rat race.
Okay, so how do you go from CFO to vacation rental business? You might have to connect a couple dots for us.
Yeah, so we, unfortunately, the company I was working for, some of us were brought in to try to pull it out of a hole that it was digging. And we brought in some heavy hitters. And when, I don't know, about 3 years in, we saw that there was no real hope to get out of the hole. So we took it into bankruptcy, unfortunately, which was a very agonizing decision and affected a lot of people. And so we went through that process, and that also eliminates my job with that company. And so my family and I took a little time to heal, and we saw it as an opportunity to let's think about something else. And I'm gonna have to look for work anyway. It's time to try and take that leap and see what happens. And we looked at all kinds of things. There was a small cafe here in the town that we looked at, because growing up, we owned Spur and Chuck Wagon Cafe in Billings, Montana. Long gone now, but so I grew up as the dishwasher. First job I ever got fired from, by my stepdad. Yeah.
Congratulations, Rob.
Yeah. It just meant I had to work and they wouldn't pay me. But yeah, so I thought, well, I got some experience with that. Let's look into that. And, we didn't have quite the financing or the savings built up to really make a real go at that. We found the Rob's program, and that did open up some doors for that, but we missed the opportunity. But that started the wheels.
Sold or something?
Yes. Yep. But it just got the wheels turning. And, living in Red Lodge, Montana, 2,500 people. It gets big in the summer. It grows a little bit in the winter for ski season, but in the shoulders, it's definitely 2,000 people, right? But having a cafe here and or something like that, we just wanted to be more involved in the community, be part of the community, and we just love being up here in the mountains. We tried a bunch of different things, and we went down the franchise model and a bunch of other things, and we just weren't finding the right fit. So, once the cafe piece was done, we we looked at, I looked at everything from painting stripes in parking lots. That just didn't sound enjoyable. Um, we looked at a little waffle place where you don't need a huge location, but you need the kitchen, you need all that kind of stuff, and you need to, but it was these cool little waffles. Right? It totally would have crushed here. But they aren't looking to put one of those here. They have their own criteria, and we didn't fit that. We looked at a vending machine option, setting up vending machines here around town and some other areas, and then just running around. But in the meantime, while we were doing that, I did land a job with the local ski mountain, and so then that changed the criteria a little bit. We still wanted to create something and start something, but it had to be after normal business hours. And so that's kind of where we changed our thought process to what could that be?
Experience of being a CFO on a sinking ship. That
Huh.
sounds precarious in so many ways, right? Because you are at the forefront of all the information and seeing
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. So tell us about how that was for you personally. And, you talked about taking some time to heal. So I was reading into that
Yeah.
it was not a particularly great experience for you.
No, no, that was you know, so when I came on, there was a lot of hope and prospects, and we were doing all the fun kind of things like going out, trying to sell the company, raise cash, just a lot of hype. It was a lot of fun. Uh, then it turned into okay, we've restructured, we've done everything we can with our own ability, and then we had to take the hard look at what is was this going to really look like soon. And when you are there's a lot of people counting on you to do the right thing, and it's not just your employees, but it's the customers you have, and uh, the ownership group all are looking for you guys to make the right choices and not take too long to make them. And there was a couple things. The C-suite guys are your only friends. Like, they're the only ones you can talk to, and you can't talk to the managers down below. I mean, you talk to them, right? You're friendly, but you can't share your feelings about things, right? You can only do that with the C-suite people. So my social group shrunk. My you're thinking about it 24/7, trying to figure out what to do, and you're worrying about everybody that you're going to disappoint. Um, and then the leadership started falling apart. The stress of everybody, what's going to happen. We started losing some of our core leadership in the C-suite. There was just at the end just a few of us trying to hold it together long enough to get through Christmas and keep everyone paid through Christmas. And then it was straight into, you know, bankruptcy. And we fought through that for 6 months to try to restructure everything. And it became clear that no one was willing to really help pull us out. We had some buyers, we had some other individuals there. And, when it was finally done, it wasn't really even done. I didn't have an income. My wife was stressed out. I was stressed out. Um, there's always more worry. Did we do something wrong in the process or anything like that? Um, so until someone says you're not involved in this bankruptcy anymore, you're kind of involved for a long time, and that's you know, see, going in front of judges, going in front of creditors. It was a it
While
was
you're
just
not
a hard,
while you're not getting paid.
yeah, while you're not getting paid. And um, there's always hope to get of being paid at the end because our last 2 years Yeah, it was the last 2 years while we worked there. Um, I was only taking 40% of my salary, to try and uh, not be a burden on the company if I could. And so there was a lot of money owed, but at the end of the day, your pennies on the dollar is all you're going to get. And uh, so there was a big chunk of loss. Uh, there was loss of, I like to win. And it's, I hate losing more than I love winning, if that makes sense. And it just, that was really hard. And there was a lot of people we let down, and there's a lot of people that were upset afterwards. And, it was hard to walk through town with people that, there's a lot of builders here in this town where I live. There's been some good building going on the last few years. And, seeing those guys, it was hard, right? Because we had disrupted some of their production. We had, caused them other grief. And, they were waiting for some money back, things like that. So when it was done, we just, I didn't work. I stopped. I tried to find ways to help people versus try to make money for a while. I, you know, I found the worst business model in the world.
Oh, what's that?
That is, try to help companies that are thinking about bankruptcy understand if they are going to or not. And then, if you're going to do that, you might as well just do it as a charity because they can't pay you. And if they say they will, eventually, once you show them that there's no hope, um, you're not going to get paid. So, it was, but at the same time, I just was happy to be able to help people get past my, or find the answer to whether they should or shouldn't file for bankruptcy sooner than later. And so, I made a little paycheck. That was fine, but I know that I helped them get to that decision a lot faster, which, the sooner you do it, the sooner um, people get taken care of. And, it's not as big as a whole at the end of the day. So, but it's not a business model that's going to make you any kind of money.
Yeah. Sounds like, so you come off this traumatic experience in a small town, right?
Right.
Where your entire game is trying not to lose the entire time. And
Yeah.
then it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm curious now to go back to your search for a business because you're looking at all these different models and you end up taking a job
Right.
with the ski resort.
Hmm.
Now, when that happens for most people, their search for a business is over. It's the choice between take a job or start the business.
Right.
Walk us through why that didn't stop you.
Yeah. Well, I found that, I finally got to where I was part of a C-suite team, right? That's everyone's goal to, not everyone, but, you know, to be a CFO or a CEO, something like that. Um, and it always felt like once you got there, like you were set, you were just going to be set. And it became very clear that you're not set. So it was like, what can we do to make sure that we always have something coming in? We don't have to rely on the corporate world all the time. And in a job or any job, things can happen at any time. And um, we wanted to build something that just had that continuity through all of what could happen with jobs. And because we didn't want to be stuck in this position again. We've been through it a few times. I mean, so all the chemical work I was doing was out of Dallas. And, we started a family in Dallas um, in 2019. Uh, you know, an investment company bought or sold the company I was working for to a different investment company. And their idea of a good time was let's slash labor and make this thing profitable so we can flip it again. And, I got caught in the churn and we said, you know what? It's time to do something really different. And, we picked we decided to come back home. So I grew up in Montana, and my wife's from Texas. And we loaded up the three dogs, the two cats, the two kids, whatever else fit in the pickup in the Jeep. And we drove from Dallas to Red Lodge and started the new year in Red Lodge, Montana. And neither of us had jobs. Neither of us had, any real prospects, but we've always been able to take that leap of faith and just know that we'll figure it out. And, um, she's a teacher down the road, not too far from here. She got the first job subbing, and then I found the CFO role. Um, but we didn't want to have to pick up and leave again. We didn't want to do that. So we wanted something that we had control of. And so that's why we continued down that journey of trying to start a business.
And how did you land on starting a vacation rental business?
Yeah. So again, the criteria was it had to be something we could do outside of normal kind of business hours, and, something that the kids could help with if we needed to. Uh, my son, he doesn't like to mow, but he'll mow for $5, so, we do a little bit of that. But anyway, we were, we went on a cruise with some friends some of our Texas friends, and we were staying at Airbnb while we were waiting to get on the ship the next day. And, we, it was so easy. Like, you just walk in, there's a code, you get in, you stay, you leave. There's no front desk to worry about. Everything's done on your phone. It's like, man, that was so easy. And we never even saw the owner or anybody like that. And, we're like, like on that cruise, we were like, that would be cool. Like, we live in a great town. Tourists are coming through all the time. I know there's Airbnbs there already, or VRBOs, just the short-term rental biz. And I know everyone complains about it because there's no long-term rentals in town. And we're just feeding into that problem. But, we like that's could be cool. And so we started, playing on our phones, looking at properties that were open. And, we found a couple cool ones. We came home, we found a realtor, we started talking about it and really kind of going down that path. And, and we'd done the ROBS program and everything for the cafe. So, everything was there and ready to just pull the trigger on it. And so we just kind of fell in love with a little house down the street from our house. I mean, it's 3 blocks away. A little 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It's perfect. Little fenced in yard. And we're like, that's it. It's almost all ready to go. And so we pulled the trigger on it. And, now we're a year and a half in, and, we're paying ourselves. It's great. I mean, I don't have a free day from June until September. Which means, we have a lot of cleaning to do.
A lot of work in between, turning
Yeah,
over.
yeah, but we're getting much better at the cleaning, and we watched a lot of Hotel Impossible and things like that to know, what to look for. And because we never really done other than my restaurant stint as a kid, neither of us had been hospitality industry at all. And yeah, so it's been great. And now we're at a point where, we've started that search for the next property to add. And we've even just talked about, do we stick with one property, but the next one, we have a small little cottage. Is the next one the one that, you charge a ton for and people come, and it could, it could be a larger moneymaker, or do I want the small little volume guy? Right. So we're at that point to decide how we want to grow and expand now that we have about almost 2 years, year and a half under our belt.
steady income. You've worked out the kinks of how to do the turnovers, and now you're looking to expand. What's the long-term vision that you and your wife have talked about?
Yeah, we definitely want to have um, multiple homes and not just, we really like our ability to clean and take care of and do all that. But we also like the idea of, expanding to some other regions not too far from us that are also pretty popular. We're I don't know if you know about Red Lodge, but it is we have the Beartooth Pass, which is part of the northeast entrance to Yellowstone Park. So we get something like 500,000 people coming through town every summer um, to take that pass into Yellowstone Park. So there's a couple other places not too far from here that are also kind of exciting for people to go hang out at. Cody, Wyoming, a couple other places. And so what we really want is we want to build this up so when the kids are off to college and we're getting closer to that retirement age, we still have uh, this additional income coming in, and then it's our kind of our legacy piece that we want to give to the kids and have them start working it and start eventually one day we'd love to be out of the actual cleaning part and just manage properties.
Yep.
But we're not quite there yet. We haven't built that empire quite yet.
Still want that income.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, my daughter's parents actually do something similar. I think they've got maybe 15 or 16
Mm-hmm.
homes in West Yellowstone.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
it's been really popular and was huge during COVID
Yes,
years.
yes. Yeah, this whole area, people, the Airbnb or the short-term rental is kind of uh, hurts our ski business a little bit because it's harder for people to find places to rent, places to stay during the winter season.
You mean
Um,
people who are working
yes,
in the industry? Got it.
yep, yep. Our F&B folks, our lifties, all those guys have to figure something out to really make it work for them. And uh, there used to be a lot more long-term rentals that people like would do for seasons.
Yeah.
Um, and the short-term rentals changed that a little bit, but there's still opportunities, and we've been brainstorming with the mountain too on how an Airbnb like ours could still fulfill my requirements with the ROBS program, um, of not being passive income, something that you're actually working, and also help the mountain out with some housing. So
Yeah.
brainstorming some
So
things there, and there's definitely some opportunities.
yeah, it seems like the big opportunity you're uncovering is that there's a huge unmet need for staff housing. And that
Yes,
probably looks very different than the Airbnb inventory, right?
yes, it does.
Dormitory style solutions.
Yep. And we like one thing that the mountain does, which is really cool, is the Forest Service has a bunkhouse for all their firefighters and everybody throughout the summer, but they don't. It stays vacant in the winter. Um, so the mountains found that, and they work with them to for a little bit of housing, but it's the exact same thing. It's a big common room, and then a bunch of I think there's like 8 individual rooms with beds, and so something of that style would be really cool to put together.
Yeah, super smart. And nobody's doing that part, it sounds like, as opposed to lots of people are doing the Airbnbs
Correct.
in and around there.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting. Well, Rob, tell me what has been the biggest positive surprise for you going down this path, and what's been the biggest sort of negative surprise or something that you weren't expecting that
Yeah. Biggest positive surprise. Um, we researched, uh, just the local area and how what kind of occupancy we should expect, and you sort of based our business off of that. 60% occupancy rate, maybe up a little bit in the summer, up a little bit a few times during the winter, and then lower in that shoulder season. And what we've found is, I think it's probably our price point that's really helped us out on this, but we stay so constantly full. Um,
Well,
you know,
it's dramatically exceeded your financial expectations then.
yes, yes. And again, we took the sort of the volume route. Our place is uh, 132 to 145 a night, depending on the day. And, then you add in the other fees and taxes. And so you're right around that 175, 180 mark, and that the customer's paying. And a lot of the rooms here in town, the old historical hotels and things like that are 250, 275, like really.
Yeah, for one room.
Right. And we've got the kitchen, we've got the yard, we allow pets, we allow dogs, and I guess pigs, because we did let a pig stay one time. um
Probably not on the listing though, right?
no, not on the listing. They did call and ask, and then we said, well, we want to come over and meet your pig. So that was pretty cool. And so yeah, so we've really focused on that volume and uh, trying to be full. You know, we up it a little bit in the summer, especially around the Fourth of July and during some other festivals, just like you should. But we're still lower than most of the other places in town. And um, so that's really been the biggest surprise to me. I thought it would be big gaps. People just during the weekends would show up. Um, and I'm all of June. I have to clean every Wednesday night in June, because I'm full on both sides. Yes, yeah. And so that part has been great. And uh, just we were really surprised at how it took off. And we have a really nice we I think the piece that helped us was we had professional photographer come in, take some great photos. We got a little help with staging and that kind of thing. And then we did a lot of research on what we needed for communicating with our guests and follow-ups, and suggesting that, tell us what you need so we can get that 5 star. Right. We did a lot of legwork before we started. We listened to a lot of podcasts about short-term rentals is what we did.
And watched Hotel Impossible, which is great.
Yes.
Not the first time I've heard that from a client, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, we we look for hair, we look for dust, um, all those things that he pointed out. I cleaned it this morning before I went to work, and uh, did one last check. And it's all because of that show, the little things that we look for.
Yeah. It's interesting, Rob. Most people, if it was exceeding their financial expectations, the first thing they would outsource is the cleaning. What's kept you doing that job yourself?
Um, One piece is that, I don't know if you know the Rob's program that,
I
we're
know
going
it
through. Yeah, we need to have a certain number of hours um, of working. And so, that's the easiest way for us to get hours. Plus, I don't have to pay somebody 20, $40, which just cuts in to, our overhead, our profits, right? We're the overhead, and we're not much compared to trying to pay people to clean. So we've just stuck with it's it's not that bad. It takes us maybe an hour and a half, depending on how the guests were, but um, you can go knock it out pretty fast. It's not a big house.
It's the way you're staying active in the business. And so as the business grows and you get more properties, then you'll spend more time on the higher level management stuff. And then some,
Yes, that's what we want to do is turn it into where we also have um, the management property management piece along with, you trying to operate all of the Airbnbs or all the short-term rentals, and um, that's a general idea there is to get to that point because I would love to just work the books.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
CFO it.
yes, yes, I will nerd out in some Excel spreadsheets.
So, Rob, any negative surprises you've had?
Yeah, I didn't know how upset the some of the community, not just our community, but uh, Montana and resort communities are with the short-term rental
Tell us about that.
model.
That's interesting. It's an interesting friction point in a lot of places, whether it's homeowners associations or tourist
Yes,
towns, and you're in a pretty small community, so I'm guessing everybody knows everybody.
yes, yes, and we when the town meeting about how to tax us versus I there's a special hospitality tax that we're paying
Like
as
hotels.
short-term rental owners versus someone who's just doing a long-term rental.
Yeah. Is it the same? Do the hotels there pay that same tax? Got it.
They do. Yep. So they see us just like that, and I don't know. I don't disagree with it, but I know if you just do a short-term rental for say a couple weeks in the summer because you're going on vacation, you want someone in, you know that technically puts you in the short-term rental game, but you may not actually understand that or care, and so then you're not paying the taxes that you should be paying. You're doing it all um, under the radar, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I guess that's where the friction starts. Is we have there's people trying to follow rules, and then there's people not trying to follow the rules. Um, and yeah, it just gets hot around here from time to time, especially when they're trying to bring people in to work a bunch of the restaurants in the summer, and the shop owners need people. All the high school kids have left, um, are on vacation, and so they've got no place for that long term, 3 or 4 month lease, and there's that frustration. It drives a lot of frustration, and people see a lot of second homes being um, Airbnbs, and then the state's also trying to put more property tax on a second home versus your your primary home or your homestead, if you will. And so there's a lot of concern there in the legislature right now with the short-term rental and what that looks like for people. Is it going to? I'm a business, so I'm hit with the business tax anyway. But uh, if it's a second home, it's got a little bit different personal feel to it, and so that's where just that controversy between the long term and the short term rental folks, and uh, we're in a resort community, so it's going to happen. Uh, it's happened everywhere. I mean, you look at Vail, you look everywhere else. That's uh,
And
there's
how
a
are
lot of
you
money.
navigating that? You talked earlier about
Yeah,
wanting to do a business that helped you get more integrated in the community, and maybe this isn't
yeah,
accomplishing that in every way you'd like it to. So I'm curious to understand your
yeah.
thoughts.
No, it's not quite the original idea at all. The cafe was we wanted to be a cornerstone here in town. Like that was really the idea that we started with, and then um, as we've understood the Airbnb piece, or short-term rental business here in town, it's still we're still providing something that the community needs. Whether the community really sees it that way or not, there's only so many beds available in our hotels, and that, standard lodging model. Uh, and, you know, there's, there isn't room for 500,000 people to cruise through here in, 4 months.
Yeah,
And,
or their pigs.
or their pigs. Yes. And so we're still fulfilling a niche that this community needs. We, and this has been a big argument that we, not argument, it's the argument for our case on why it's good to have the short-term rentals in town, because we're providing an option that the hotels don't. Um, and if we can get people to, instead of blowing through town, and going straight into the park, you can keep them one more night. They spend a little more money in town. It just helps everybody. And so, those conversations happen a lot. Um, the businesses want long term because they want their employees to have a place to stick around, and they want employees. Things changed after COVID. I believe it was something like 30% of the food and beverage people quit food and beverage and went on to do something else. And so, there's we're strong hospitality here, and that's food and beverage.
Yep.
And trying to find those people and give them an opportunity and place to stay. I can see the frustration with some of the folks in town.
Yeah, I'm curious in sort of my final line of questioning here. I'd love to understand as you've approached the vacation rental business, especially for somebody who used to be a CFO, how are you approaching financing of the properties? Obviously, you use the rollover for business startup transaction to get some of your initial seed money, but were you doing a down payment and then borrowing money, or are you refinancing the property after you show 2 years of income? I mean, talk to me about the strategy there.
Yep. So yeah, so that's why we're getting ready to try and find that next one. We use the seed money to just buy the house. Um,
In cash,
yep.
so no
Be,
debt.
none, because we really, that was the easiest way for us to see how the model truly performed if I didn't have to try to fight through a mortgage.
Yep.
Um,
And less risk because you don't know exactly how much cash flow you're going to get off it initially.
Correct, correct. And we still had, the remaining cash we have, we put it in a money market account, we put some in CD, um, so that there's still a little bit of growth going there sitting in the bank, but we knew that we had all of our costs covered regardless. It really made a made it really a safe kind of investment for us to try to jump into this thing that we've never done before and weren't quite sure how it would really work. And so, yeah, we're at a point now where the other thing is we bought it at a good time, and the value of that little house has gone up significantly. So there is, you know, it, that we are at that point where if we find the right place, we can pull out the equity out of the current place we have, and then use that to help us find that next property with the additional cash that we still have. Um,
Yeah. What are the banks telling you about the rates to pull that equity out of the home? Just curious based on where interest rates sit today.
yeah, I'm not super excited about all of it right now. I was hoping for more, but um, you know, we're two. What did they say? It's been a minute since we had that call, but it was I was going to be able to pull 200,000 out of the house essentially, from the equity, and uh, getting into another place. We were at 6.5 was what we were looking at. Um,
That's not bad for a non-primary, given where interest rates are at.
yeah,
I would have guessed it was higher, but
yeah. Well, I mean, we we've got a couple other things that kind of make it, I don't know, easier. Um,
it's got 2 years of cash flow, right? So it's a
we
legitimate business. It's not just
Yes, right,
it's
and
theoretical.
Yep. And, working with some of the local banks, the local banks need to have a certain percentage of local loans. And, so there's a few things to work through there with them that they see as keeping something in town right by the bank, as, one of those opportunities aren't all over the place. And so willing to work with us a little bit on that.
Well, Rob, I'm excited to check in with you in a few years and see what's happened with this
Yeah.
little vacation rental empire I'm sure you're going to build. Maybe you'll build it outside of your town so you don't have to have the friction right next door. But
Yeah, or it turns into where it's not just a short-term rental. It's just short-term rentals are kind of the backbone, and we venture out into some other real estate type opportunities, even the
yes,
bunkhouse kind of.
yeah, the bunkhouse thing is intriguing, right?
Yeah.
It's not only a way to sort of ingratiate the community with you, but it's easy to see how the construction on that could be potentially lower cost and solve the problem. And you're a
Yes.
CFO, so you're going to model it out and figure it out, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to spreadsheet it all over the place. It's awesome.
Well, Rob, really appreciate you taking the time today to share your story with us, man.
Yeah. No, thank you. It's great. Love telling it.
All right, well, take care. Thanks for listening to the Create the Life You Want podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to future episodes by clicking the subscribe button, you know where. If you're an aspiring business owner, you may also want to subscribe to the Create the Life You Want newsletter for more inspiration and tips delivered to your inbox every week. You can find the link to that in the show notes, as well as on my personal website, jeremyames.com. If you've already decided you want to start or buy a business, consider exploring your financing options by heading to our sponsor's website at www.guidantfinancial.com. That's GUIDANT financial.com. See you in the next episode.